Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. Growing up, my family would take trips to the beach every summer. Those sunny days playing in the sand and splashing in the waves were some of my fondest childhood memories. As an adult, being able to purchase a small beach house of my own was a dream come true. The house was just steps away from the water, with a little strip of private beach that came with the property. I was beyond excited to spend my weekend sitting on the sand, breathing in the fresh ocean air. That dream quickly turned into a nightmare once my new neighbor Karen moved in next door. From our very first interaction, I could tell Karen was going to be trouble. She stopped me as I was unloading groceries and began lecturing me about the state of my front yard. Apparently, the presence of a few weeds was detracting from the natural beauty of the beach. Before I could even respond, she stormed off. I brushed off the bizarre encounter, not wanting some cranky neighbor to ruin my beach bliss. The first few weekends at my new place were absolute heaven. I'd wake up early, brew some coffee, and take a morning stroll along the shoreline. In the afternoons, I'd sit out back and read a book while listening to the soothing sounds of the waves. But my moments of zen were soon interrupted by Karen's incessant complaints. She knocked on my door one afternoon, her face scrunched up in a frown. "Your fence is blocking my view," she huffed. "I'm going to need you to take it down immediately." I politely explained that the 6-foot fence was there when I moved in, and that blocking her view was not my intention. Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "Well, it's an eyesore and it needs to go. I suggest you get to work on removing it right away." I tried to reason with her, but she refused to listen. "This is my neighborhood too," she snapped. "I have a right to an unobstructed ocean view. Now take down that hideous fence." I shut the door, astounded at her audacity. A few days later, I came home to find Karen wandering around in my backyard. I called out to her from the porch steps. "Excuse me, can I help you with something?" She glanced over with a sour look on her face. "I'm just checking things out back here. As you know, this is practically an extension of my own yard." I was flabbergasted. "Actually, Karen, this is my private property. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." She let out an exasperated sigh. "You really need to get rid of all this junk taking up space. It's bringing down property values. I'll give you a week to clear it out." Before I could respond, she turned on her heel and marched back to her house. These bizarre encounters kept happening on an almost daily basis. Anytime I went into my backyard, Karen would magically appear minutes later. She'd wander around critiquing my patio furniture placement or chastising me for having too many seashells cluttering the space. One morning I came outside to find that my lawn chair had been moved halfway across the yard. I immediately looked over at Karen's house and spotted her peeking through her blinds. It was obvious she had come onto my property while I was asleep and moved my furniture around. This was getting out of hand. I decided to install security cameras so I'd have proof the next time she trespassed. Sure enough, the very first night the cameras captured Karen sneaking into my backyard and looking in my windows. I couldn't believe her nerve. The last straw came a few mornings later when I headed out for my usual beach walk. As I made my way down to the shoreline, Karen came barreling towards me. "You can't be here," she shouted. "This is my private beach area." I shook my head in disbelief. "Karen, you know very well that part of this beach belongs to my property." She crossed her arms defiantly. "Absolutely not. I own this entire shoreline now. You are trespassing on my land, and I'm calling the police." I stood there in shock as she dialed police and proceeded to tell the dispatcher that I was illegally on her beach property and needed to be arrested. Thankfully, the reasonable officer who arrived recognized that Karen was deranged. After reviewing the property maps, he confirmed that she did not in fact own the entire beach. He warned Karen to stop making bogus calls and to stay off my land. I realized that dealing with her irrational behavior on my own was useless. The only way to stop her harassment was through the legal system. I filed for a restraining order, which the judge happily granted based on her unhinged behavior. Karen showed up to the court hearing wearing a tiny bikini, apparently thinking her beach attire would sway the judge's decision, but her ridiculous tactics did not work. The judge upheld the restraining order, meaning Karen had to stay 100 feet away from me and my property at all times. If she violated the order, she would be arrested on the spot. I finally felt like I could breathe a sigh of relief. Of course, Karen being Karen, she just couldn't help herself. A few weekends later, I was tidying up my backyard when I noticed a figure in my periphery. I turned to find Karen, blatantly standing on my property, clipboard in hand. "What do you think you're doing?" I called out. "You know you're violating the restraining order by being here." She simply rolled her eyes at me. "I'm making notes of changes that need to be made back here. This is still my land regardless of what that judge tried to say." I swiftly pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the police right now, Karen. You were already warned." I smirked as I heard her let out a frustrated shriek. Finally, I had the upper hand. No more dealing with her defiant attitude or entitlement. The law was on my side. Minutes later, a squad car pulled up. I waved the officers over and pointed at Karen, who was still standing there with her clipboard. She didn't even try to run or resist as the cop put her in handcuffs. "But this is my beach," she stammered pathetically. "You can't do this." "Sorry, ma'am, but we have a legal restraining order here that you are clearly violating," the officer replied. "You need to come with us." I watched with satisfaction as Karen was loaded into the back of the police car. Maybe a night or two in a jail cell would teach her a lesson about respecting other people's property. In the end, Karen ended up getting sentenced to 6 months in prison for repeated restraining order violations. The judge declared her a menace to society, which I wholeheartedly agreed with. These days, I can finally enjoy my beach house in peace, without having to worry about dealing with her insane antics. The view from my backyard is better than ever without her fence complaints, and I can stroll along the shoreline knowing that the tide rolling in belongs to no one else but me. The next one is a pro-revenge story. Backstory. Back when I was in college, my pathophysiology class had a final project worth 50% of the total grades we could earn. Groups were picked at the beginning of the semester. This was a massive project that you were expected to start working on from the outset. If you thought you could complete it all last minute, you were likely mistaken. It was myself, 2 other girls whom I knew were diligent, and then this one guy. One of the girls had a crush on him and insisted on adding him to our group, presumably because she found him attractive. I refer to him as Idiot every time I recount this story because he truly was an idiot. The girls were outstanding, and everyone contributed to the project except for Idiot. Idiot never participated in any of the group project tasks. He ignored all our messages, whether via text or Facebook, but would respond to the girl if she flirted with him. He attended class maybe twice a month at most. He frequently posted photos of himself vacationing in Mexico or the Bahamas. I believe he spent more time abroad than at home. A week before the project deadline, he messaged the group asking which sections of the textbook he should review for his portion of the project. We guided him, specifying what he needed to do and where to find the information. We made everything clear for him. Any more assistance, and we might as well have done his part for him. Idiot thanked us and then vanished. We assumed he was working on his section, but we were also prepared for a potential reduction in our grades, given that he hadn't done anything until then, and the quality of his work was likely subpar. The project's due date arrived, and he was nowhere to be found. He ignored our frantic messages. The 2 girls and I approached the professor and explained the situation, providing screenshots of months' worth of conversations where we tried to involve Idiot in our group activities. The professor was unimpressed. She promptly emailed Idiot, copying the head of the program, stating that he needed to complete his part and present it in class the following week, or he would receive a 0. The rest of us would not be penalized. Can you guess the outcome? Idiot neither responded nor showed up. The professor awarded him a 0. It turned out he needed to excel in this project to pass the course. He had failed every test, and with this project's failure, he couldn't pass the semester. I believe he had to retake the course during the summer, costing him, or perhaps his mother, an additional $1,300 for that class alone. A few months later, at the college bookstore, Idiot and his mother, whom I've dubbed Screamer, confronted the other girl and me. Screamer berated us, claiming we had constantly harassed her son and threatened to sabotage our future job prospects. Screamer was a prominent figure in our field, serving on the board of directors for the local Public Health Alliance. Despite her esteemed position, she was escorted out by security. However, her actions didn't stop there. She dragged the girl and me through numerous college meetings, accusing us of mistreating her son, though she had no evidence. For months, the girl and I had to adjust our schedules to avoid any interaction with Idiot, as mandated by the college. This made our final year challenging, as we had to ensure we never crossed paths with him, or we risked facing disciplinary actions. Now, for the revenge. The security company contracted by the college was the same one I had previously worked for. I was close friends with the night shift supervisor. One evening after my shift, I asked him for a favor. In exchange for his discretion and a promise of an entertaining video, I requested access to a specific security footage. After explaining the situation and specifying the date and time of the incident, he took me to the campus. In the security office, he showed me the video of Screamer's outburst in the college bookstore, complete with audio. He was familiar with Screamer, as she had caused disturbances at another site he patrolled. I assured him I would handle the situation and soon had the video in my possession. Over the next few days, I identified the other board members and sent them the video of Screamer's tirade in the bookstore. The footage clearly captured her threats and her altercation with security. I received no responses, so I waited. A week later, Screamer was removed from her board position after the video was presented during a meeting she attended. She lost her prestigious government job and, according to a mutual acquaintance, now works in a retirement home. As for Idiot, I heard he never graduated and now works at a call center. The girl and I secured full-time jobs soon after graduation without any issues. As for the security guard, he was later employed by the RCMP, proving that good things do indeed happen to good people. The next one is a petty revenge story. I don't travel very often, and it's even more uncommon for me to fly. Therefore, when I do fly, I always like to get a window seat. So, last week, when I was boarding my flight, I was frustrated when I arrived at my seat and found a lady sitting there. She and her friend occupied the window and middle seats, while the aisle seat was open. Thinking she was just confused, I said, "Hey ma'am, I'm sorry, but I think you're in my seat." "This is my seat, kid. You're reading it wrong," she replied. Considering I'm in my early 20s and have a youthful appearance, I was a bit taken aback. I tried to show her my boarding pass. "Actually, I have my ticket right here, and it says—" She interrupted me. "I do this way more than you do, kid. Sit down in your seat over there." I was livid, but I didn't want to delay the entire plane, so I quietly took my seat. While seated, I overheard her and her friend discussing their tight connecting flight in DFW and their concerns about deplaning quickly. I saw my opportunity for some petty revenge. Throughout the flight, whenever I wanted to look out the window, I leaned over their laps, making it uncomfortable for everyone. I was determined to enjoy the view I had paid for. Upon landing, I took my sweet time retrieving my bag from under the seat, stood up slowly, stretched, and insisted that the 2 rows behind us disembark before I did. Since the 2 inconsiderate passengers couldn't leave until I did, I leisurely walked down the aisle and shook hands with both flight attendants on my way out. The 2 women rushed out as soon as we rounded the corner. I felt great. The next one is a malicious compliance story. The title really says it all. I work for a company where part of my weekly tasks is to shop for a specific snack each week for upwards of 50 people. The snack rotates on a 20-week cycle. Some weeks are challenging because I can only find the specific snack at stores like Trader Joe's. However, most weeks, I can drive to the Safeway that's within half a mile of my work. I've had a lot more responsibilities in the past year, so I switched to pickup orders. It's free for orders over $30, and as I mentioned, I'm shopping for snacks for 50 people. For context, I live in Colorado, which recently passed a law requiring grocery stores to charge a 10-cent fee for plastic or paper bags. These fees are automatically added to my pickup orders, and my company gets charged between 0.20 cents to $1 each week just for bags. My boss, the regional head, emailed me today. The people overseeing the credit card charges want me to stop using plastic bags due to the fees and to buy reusable bags instead. She's frustrated as well and supports me. She plans to discuss this with her superior, the national head of our department. Now here's where my malicious compliance comes into play. I contacted the local Safeway, and their policy doesn't allow the use of reusable bags for pickup orders, so I can't shop there anymore. However, the local King Soopers, a Kroger store, allows me to use them. They are over 3 times farther away, which is why I haven't shopped there often. Using the company card, I purchased their priciest non-insulated reusable bag, which cost $15 each. I bought 3 of them to ensure I have enough for each week without resorting to plastic bags. I also get compensated for the miles I drive for work-related tasks at a rate of 30 C/ per quarter mile, always rounded up to the nearest quarter mile. The Kroger store is precisely 3.05 miles from my location. This distance rounds up to 3.25 miles for the trip there, and another 3.25 miles for the return, totaling 6.5 miles. For this round trip, I receive $7.80. In contrast, the Safeway is only 0.65 miles away, so I get paid for a 1.5 mile round trip, which amounts to $1.80. I'm also paid my regular wages during these trips, so instead of the company paying the store, they're compensating me. I'm more than happy to pocket the extra $24 each month if it means the company saves $0.80 on plastic bags. The next one is an entitled people story. I, a 24-year-old male, wasn't even going to make a post about this, but my brother, whom I'll call Turk, who is 25, made 4 posts about it. So I thought I should share my side of the story. I'll use the same names he did for the sake of simplicity. My fiancée is Maria, who is 24, and my ex is Jen, also 24. A little over 5 years ago, my brother started dating Maria, my now fiancée. 3 months after they began dating, they set me up with her now ex-best friend, Jen. The 4 of us did a lot together since the girls were best friends. Turk and Maria dated for a year, and Jen and I dated for 9 months. At the end of our relationship, I came home early and found Turk and Jen having sex in my bed. After I processed the situation, I called Maria because I would want to know if I were in her place. She came over and we confronted Turk and Jen. They broke up with us and 2 days later started dating each other. It devastated me. I came home to find my brother with my girlfriend, only for him to run off with her. I had to move back in with my parents. It was infuriating because they kept talking about how happy Turk and Jen were. Over the next few months, Maria and I started talking. We were 2 people in similar unfortunate situations, and we found comfort in each other. 4 months after we were dumped, Maria and I officially began dating. 6 months after that, Turk discovered that Jen was cheating on him, and she left him for the other guy. I only learned about this today from reading Turk's post. Maria occasionally received messages from Turk trying to reconnect, but she ignored him. Fast forward to now, Maria and I are engaged and getting married in September. My parents were invited until my mom called and threatened not to attend if I didn't invite Turk. I told her not to bother coming. In my mother's eyes, Turk can do no wrong. When he became involved with and started dating my ex, I told my parents everything he did, and my mom tried defending him. Our relationship isn't the best, but it was somewhat decent. After I uninvited my parents, I only uninvited my mom, but my dad texted me saying he wouldn't come if my mom didn't. Turk bombarded my phone trying to contact me. This is the first time he's even tried reaching out to me in 4 years. As I mentioned earlier, Turk posted about this situation on Reddit as well, and apparently my parents told him that Maria and I were getting married, which led to them being uninvited. He's stopped calling, but he's inundating my phone with texts, begging me to reinvite my parents and possibly extend an invitation to him. So that's my side of the story. The next one is an entitled parent story. I am a 24-year-old female. Earlier this year, I discovered that I was supposed to receive around $160K in inheritance money when my father passed away. I made this discovery when I looked into a cabinet in our house. My curiosity was piqued due to my mother's inconsistent financial behavior, sometimes acting wealthy and sometimes poor. Inside the cabinet, I found a letter addressed to me from the life insurance company detailing my inheritance. All I had to do was submit some paperwork to receive the funds. Somehow, my mother managed to submit the necessary documents on my behalf and even cash the check that was in my name. I'm puzzled as to why she felt entitled to the money, especially since she received $500K in inheritance herself. When I confronted her, she became defensive, insisting it was her money. I informed her that I had contacted the life insurance company and had photocopies of the check and the submitted documents. At this revelation, she tried to negotiate, offering me $10K upfront and then $2K monthly. I declined, fearing she would manipulate me into postponing her payments. She claimed she would become homeless if I took all the money at once. I pressed her to show her bank statements, revealing she had around $330K. Moreover, she has been earning a 6-figure salary for the past 3 years. Her claim of impending homelessness seemed far-fetched. I expressed my desire to move out and live with a friend, but my mother's delay in giving me money hindered my plans. Eventually, she gave me 50K. Shortly after, she asked to borrow 20K for a month to help with a property purchase. I naively mentioned my upcoming school grants, and she began hinting at borrowing more money. Weeks later, she pressured me to accompany her to the bank to withdraw 20K. This happened on October 3rd. By November 23rd, I requested 2K back. She responded with silence and avoidance. When I called her, she broke down, accusing me of various misdeeds and expressing her disappointment. Days later, we had an intense 4-hour argument. I was so appalled by her behavior that I decided to distance myself from her. Unexpectedly, she approached me for a hug, crying and admitting to suppressing her emotions. She offered me $500 immediately and another $500 on December 22nd, which baffled me. My frustration grew, and though I tried to maintain my composure, she noticed my cold demeanor. She confronted me, and I expressed my anger over her not returning the borrowed money as promised. She became emotional and left, later transferring another $500 to me. We haven't spoken since. It angers me that she feels entitled to the inheritance. She's aging and single. Why does she need a new property? Moreover, she only had access to the money because of her deceitful actions. It's my money legally. She had already received a significant inheritance before taking mine. I've been working minimum wage jobs since I was 18, yet she acts as if her needs surpass mine. Even if her claims hold some truth, I am her child, and the money is rightfully mine. I recall an incident when I was 19. I was juggling work at a tutoring center and a restaurant while attending college full-time, all without a car. One day, as I was leaving for a haircut, she questioned my decision, implying I should be financially supporting her instead. Her entitlement was evident, even though she had 660K, and I was a hardworking student. I'm incredibly frustrated. My aversion to confrontation makes it challenging to address the issue. I often resort to texting to avoid direct confrontations, but I'm beginning to think it's not the best approach. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.